Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. I am still at this point trying to get access back to my personal account. It's not that I've lost the credentials, it just no longer works. I cannot log in. But Wargaming support is on it, and I am hoping that, well, we'll get that resolved in due time. In the meantime, I'm keeping myself busy with a lot of things. One of them being, well, since all I can currently access is my press account, I have been playing with the USS Gearing, the Tier 10 American destroyer. And I've done this for a reason, because I wanted to figure out, has the Gearing been power-crept? Now, before we get into that detail, let's have a very, very quick look into what the real Gearing was up to. The Gearing or Gearing class destroyers were actually not built anymore during the Second World War. They were mostly just like early post-war designs. Not designs, but completion, and have served for quite a while since then. The Gearing herself, for example, was being refitted in the early 1960s with things like nuclear depth charges, which is a whole horrifying idea. But I reckon at that time they were just so fascinated with everything being nuclear that they decided to make everything nuclear. And while the crew was still trying to figure out how to use those things, the Gearing was called out of port and was sent out into the sea in an emergency call. And nobody really knew for quite a while what was going on. But it turned out that it was October 1962 and the blockade of Cuba was being ordered, which happened to be a little bit rushed. And the Gearing was actually the first US Navy surface ship that made contact with a Russian ship, the freighter Bucharest, that they intercepted. And, they didn't have clear orders to board the ship, but they did have a look. It didn't have anything particularly suspicious on it. So, they wished them a good day and had them move on. And that was that. But yeah, very tense time back then, and I'm sure glad that they didn't actually get to use their nuclear depth charges. I did find a website with some original research on interviews of crew members from the Gearing. I'll leave a link in the description. It's a really, really fascinating read from the post-war early 60s sort of thing. But yeah, okay, back to the game. Why am I talking about being power creep? First of all, what does power creep mean? Power creep is if you have a ship that has its niche and has its position in the game, and then new ships get introduced, which aren't necessarily all in all more powerful than this ship. But after a while, you find out that for everything that this ship does, there's another ship that does it better. And it's not because the original ship has been nerfed or made worse. It's just that the other ones, the newly introduced ones, are just that tiny little bit better at it. And the Gearing has been around for a really, really long time. The Gearing has been there since the beginning of the game. And I remember still when I started playing back in 2018 or something, that I think it was about early 2018. And we had the Japanese destroyers up to the Shima, none of the gunboats. We had the American destroyers, and that was it. In terms of destroyers, there were some Russian cruisers and Soviet cruisers, but I think that was about it. There were no German ships, there was no gunboat line, there was most certainly no Pan-Asian line or anything like that. So back then, the Gearing was a smoke destroyer, and we also didn't have things like radars. To be honest, I don't think we had sonars either, if I'm not mistaken. Because the German ships didn't exist yet. So effectively, the Gearings were, I think, the only ships in the game that actually had smoke screens. And please someone correct me if I misremember this, but I'm reasonably certain that the Japanese mainline destroyers didn't get smoke screens until a more recent update. And a smoke screen meant that, you're sitting in your smoke. You cannot be detected unless somebody is really, really close to you. And you could... And these are good smokes. These are actually smoke generator 2 which last for 32 seconds. So that's even without the Mistweaver skill. So these are reasonably long-lasting smokes. You get 3 of them. You did get the defensive AA, you get the engine boost, and if you had to compare the Japanese mainline destroyers with things like the gearing, they were definitely the better gunboats. So just in line with everything else in the American tech tree, there are jacks of all trades, really, the sort of thing. But then, well, the tech trees happened, and now we have Japanese gunboat destroyers. We have British destroyers. We have German destroyers. We have 2 lines of Soviet destroyers. And we have Pan-Asian destroyers. And we have the European destroyer line, which is mostly Swedish, really, at the end of it. So why does this matter? Well, the gearing is no longer the only ship with smokes in the game. There are plenty of other destroyers out there that have smokes. The gearing is no longer the only ship that has a decent AA. In fact, the Pan-European line has a better AA than the gearing. The gearing is no longer the best gunboat out there. I would firmly say that the Soviet destroyers and the German destroyers both outgun the gearing. So what does that leave the gearing with? If we have to check, let's take a look at the stats and what she can do. I have the advanced gun director for better firing range on the main guns, because I still think that she's a good gunboat. You could take torpedo damage and torpedo flooding if you wanted to play her more as a torpedo boat, and that's also a viable option. So you get these 2 to set yourself up. That gives us a reasonably sturdy destroyer with a 6% damage reduction, although again it doesn't mean anything in terms of that she can actually tank anything. This is just kind of effective a little bit against smaller caliber shells. She is not the fastest out there with 35 knots, but she gets 4 engine boosts, so you can definitely get up to almost 40 knots, I think. She's got very good engines and is, in terms of acceleration, and has a good turn time on her as well. The main guns have a range of over 9 kilometers. You get 6 of them, and I've got the reload down to 3 seconds. But they only do have a 3% fire chance and a relatively mediocre damage output all over. I mean, it was good back in the day, but once again, today there are better ones. The torpedoes. She gets 2 quintuple launchers with a 54-second reload, which is pretty good. And the 8.7 kilometer range is pretty okay as well, and they hit hard. They do 4,500, almost 4,600 points of base damage, although they are very slow. The AA is not bad for a destroyer, so she can definitely shoot down a plane or 10 if she needs to. And the surface detection is very, very good, with 5.7 kilometers in my setup. However, how have I gotten there? Well, after playing around a little bit, the way I'm playing is with the main battery mod 2 for faster gun reload, the acceleration or the propulsion mod for acceleration in slot 2, and I'm actually sailing with the concealment system. You could go with either speed, although it's not going to make a huge difference, or with the steering gear 2 for better rudder shift. But I like playing this, I like having the option of outspotting other ships. So let's have a very quick look. Nope, not at these. Let's have a look at the gearing. And the one ship that I really want to point, that I was really thinking of, because I've just recently played that, and that's the Grozovoi. So let's compare the gearing and the Grozovoi. And we see the difference being the Grozovoi doesn't get the great smoke screen, but she gets a better engine accelerator, and she also gets the defensive AA. The Grozovoi has the edge in health, ever so slightly, but doesn't quite have the same resistance. She is faster though, but gearing is definitely more maneuverable. Grozovoi's guns are better all around. She doesn't quite get the same reload, but she gets a 1%. She gets a 1.5% better fire chance, and she gets better alpha damage both on the high explosive and on the armor piercing, and a better turret traverse. The torpedoes on the Grozovoi are distinctly inferior to those on the gearing, and the AA on the Grozovoi is actually better than on the gearing. in terms of stealth, once again, the gearing has the advantage. So has this ship then been power-crept? I think it has. I think in terms of... So, because what really matters, the alpha damage doesn't really matter all that much on the guns unless you're dueling other destroyers, where the Grozovoi probably has a bit of an edge. And we're not even talking about things like the Khabarovsk, which is a cruiser, or German destroyers, which, like, if we pull the Z52 in here, which I haven't played yet. No, sorry, wait. Add to list. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So if we compare these two in terms of their guns and firepower, then we see that the German, with his armor piercing, has probably the edge and has a better fire chance to boot as well. So I think in terms of gunboat, we can firmly say that the gearing has been power-crept. So how about in terms of torpedo boat? Well, the torpedoes aren't terrible, but for example, if I compare her to a Pan-Asian Tier 10 destroyer, let's take the Yuyang, which I also haven't played, but let's have a look and compare the gearing to the Yuyang. First of all, the Yuyang is actually an Allen M. Sumner class, which is, I think, it's an improved Fletcher and pretty much close to a gearing anyway. So this is an American destroyer, which you can see that the hull specs are pretty much identical. Yuyang has better rudder shift and is a tick faster, and the guns are pretty much almost identical to what you have on the gearing. But on the Yuyang, you get, they are deep water torpedoes, but first of all, they're quicker, they have a longer range, and they hit harder. In return, you don't, the other things are pretty much similar. So if you wanted something, and the Yuyang gets a radar instead of the defensive AA, which I would take, honestly, personally. So we have better torpedo boats, even on the same hull, than the gearing. And we have, what does it leave us with, really? I think it leaves us with an average destroyer. And I would say the gearing definitely has been power-crept, not badly, in that she's completely unviable now. But I would say if you're after a particular play style that you want to have, the gearing is much less viable than she used to be, much less dangerous than she used to be. The smokes are almost irrelevant today with the absolute prevalence of radars everywhere. We've got destroyers with radars. We've got the Pan-Asian line, which has radars, and I think the Pan-European gets these as well? Yeah, so the Pan-European line with the radar 2 and 2 charges mean that your smokes are effectively irrelevant if there's anything Swedish around. The Soviet destroyers have radar. The American light cruisers have radar. Hell, even the American heavy cruisers have radar. So effectively your smokes have become a much, much less potent weapon, which means that the only thing you can really use the gearing at the moment is as a very stealthy destroyer which can use smokes defensively in the early stages, or if there's nothing with the radar around, really. You can kind of set fires, but once again, there are other ships which are much better at it. You can use your torpedoes, but the torpedoes are very slow, and there are other ships which are much better at them. So all in all, it's not a terrible destroyer, but it's nowhere near as powerful as I think it used to be. Right, let's complete the setup question. The commander. I have underwater protection, I've got the torpedo alert, I've got preheating, obviously defensive AA. I do have Daredevil here, and exploit weakness, because if you are shooting at things like battleships, you are going to use the high explosive. And try to set fires, and try to set floods. I've got fully prepared Mistweaver, obviously, because the one kind of edge that you still have is that in the gearing you have very, very good smokes that are lasting a long time. So you can kind of also use them to smoke up your teammates, if that's the thing you want to do. Engine overload with 4 engine boosts, that's pretty clear. I have Honor Seeker here because, you could use compartment maintenance, but I don't think it makes a massive difference. And obviously Giant Hunter would be a skill you'd want. IFHE or APCS, I would almost be tempted to use APCS because the guns against other sturdier destroyers are struggling a bit with the armor piercing. So I do get the occasional bounce of other destroyers with these guns. So that might be a skill to use, or the IFHE, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference with the 127 millimeters. You get, we're not going to talk about the spaceship camo, but you get the historical camo, which gives you main battery firing range, torp range, traverse, and surface detection, which is all great stuff. So range is often your friend in this, but with 62 knot torpedoes, hitting anything with the torpedoes at range is actually very, very difficult. So oftentimes I am relying on my guns, and I'm trying to be useful to my team rather than trying to rack up the large damage numbers, and play it more as a support ship rather than an aggressive destroyer. All right then, let's get into some gameplay. In the first battle, we are in an almost exclusive Tier 10 game, and we're up against a Midway, Vermont, Republic, Yamato, Somers, Ashima, and the Yugomo. So, fault line domination. Domination battles are nice because one of the things that the Gearing really is good at is rushing caps, because she can probably outspot pretty much anything, and she is, while not really super quick, reasonably fast in with the engine boost up. So I'm switching over to the armor piercing because I'm fully expecting there to be destroyers around. And with the engine boost, she does 40 knots, which is not bad, right? We can live with that. Now the carrier is coming this way, but we have another destroyer here with us, so we can at the very least give a little bit of AA cover. Now don't give yourselves any illusions that you can actually defend yourself against a carrier that is determined to kill you. You cannot. You do get, for a destroyer, reasonable AA, but it's not Swedish level. So so far we're still unspotted. We're just skirting out of the range, and I want to be behind this ledge here, and then we'll see about what's going to happen in ACAP. So I'm air spotted obviously now, so I'm slowing down. I just want to get into the capture circle, and we are capping A, but now we've stopped capping A, so there are 2 destroyers in A. And we're coming under air attack, obviously. So that's our first heal in Damakon. And then we can just sit behind this ledge here and do something about the Yugomo, because there's a friendly Gearing with us, which is good, which means we've got lots of smokes. So for now, we're just going to shoot at Yugomo. I'll start the first smoke, so he can be in smoke. We've dodged all the torpedoes. Nicely done. And we have together probably a reasonable amount of AA going, even though my defensive A is on cooldown, so I will just shoot at the Yugomo. The shell arcs are relatively high, so hitting things at range that aren't... And there you see a bounce of a Yugomo and a semi-pen. The armor piercing isn't the greatest, really. And against a rapidly maneuvering destroyer at long range, it's also not super easy to actually hit them. But we do get the occasional hit in. Now the Yugomo is smoking up as well. I've dropped some prospective torpedoes in the general direction. But for now we're just blind firing, and there's the Somers, so there's the American destroyer over there. Let's see if we can get the Yugomo killed. He's on reasonably low health, and once again just dropping some torpedoes in the general direction, but I do want to be behind that ledge such that I am not going to get hit by these torps, and I think our Gearing has managed to dodge, I hope. These torpedoes don't actually look terrible, but the Somers obviously has seen it and has stopped. So with 62 knot torpedoes, hitting other destroyers, unless you're at point blank range, is almost impossible. But the Yugomo is running reasonably low on hit points, and so at this point, if the other Gearing can manage to dodge those torps, then we should be good, which just leaves the Somers. Now, I do have still 2 smokes left, and I think together we might be able to push him out of the capture circle. He's not shooting at me. Friendly Gearing has taken a little bit of damage, but yeah, I need to lead a lot more with these shots because the shells are having quite a bit of hang time, and I'm not sure the Somers might be trying to get torpedoes away. As long as he's just sitting there doing nothing, I'm quite happy just to shoot at him for now. And yep, there come the Somers torpedoes. Somers gets a torpedo reload, so I do have to be a little bit careful. There might be more. There was 3 spreads coming out. I can't quite remember how many launchers the Somers has, but the dispersion is also not great on the Gearing. Like you see, I often miss about. I mean, this might just be my aim as well, but I'm often missing half my shells at 5 kilometer range at a fully broadsiding destroyer. So there's some more Somers torps, so that should have been the reload booster. And that means the Somers is now out of torpedoes for quite a bit. Then we can drop some in his general direction, and then we get back to just shooting him. And it looks like the friendly gearing is still with us. So together we have managed to secure a cap, and we've got one destroyer killed. So I'm calling that a success for now. Let's see what the rest of our team is up to. Yep, the Somers has been reloaded. That's why I am in reverse and dodging these torpedoes. And yeah, the shells are really slow, so you do have to kind of take that into account. Can I get a torpedo on the Somers? Yep, nice. That's one torpedo on the Somers. So we got to smoke up, especially when the Somers is actually speeding up. I find myself having to lead quite a little bit more than I usually am. But I've got the cap, and he doesn't. And the friendly gearing is buggering off and doing something about B cap and doing something about the battleships there, which is good. So I'm just going to go and chase that Somers. Okay, there he is. I still have a lot of my smoke screen, but there might be torpedoes. Yep, there are torpedoes in the water, smoke screens, torpedo magnets and such. So I'm going to dodge those, and then we're going to go and chase after the Somers because we have lost contact at this point. And there's nothing else for me to do around here, so we're going to go on after and chase. Now, I haven't done a huge amount of damage because obviously, you know, the other gearing can go and play with the battleships. But I've got some more Somers torps. Oh, I might take that one. Yeah, I couldn't dodge that. That was right in my way. So this is where having a Hydro would be useful, or having like a radar. It's like if I was in, let's say I was in a Pan-Asian destroyer, I would have been able to radar the Somers. Oh, well, there he is anyway. We caught up to him. So there's going to be some more torps in the water. Yeah, that's probably one of his reloads. And we're just going back to shooting him. And we'll smoke up. He might have dropped some torpedoes, so we're going to stay as much as possible. Yeah, there they come. Bow in. And just reverse a little bit such that we get our nose between this in this torpedo spread. Now, fortunately for me, the Somers torpedoes aren't any faster than mine, so they're really more like sea mines. But Somers has smoked up, so have I. So currently we're just blind firing. He's blind torping. I'm not even bothering trying to torp him at this point because I don't know where he is. He might have as well vacated his smoke. There he is. Okay. He's reasonably low on health, so I think I'm gonna be winning that duel eventually. Once I get him whittled down sufficiently that he is actually. But I think I've almost got him. But he is actually out. So one more salvo, that should do it. No, one more. Okay, now we've got him. And the carrier is coming for me. There's a Vermont. How are we looking? Yeah, we're ahead on points. We're holding all 3 capture circles. The other gearing has probably massacred the battleships over there. I am coming under air attack, not really all that much I can do about it. But yeah, there comes the other gearing massacring the Vermont. Nicely done. And we've just got the carrier, but we've only got 20 seconds left. So yes, there's not really all that much I can do about the carrier anymore. I could, I mean, if I had longer in the battle, I could still hit with those torpedoes. But for now, these are just, you know, out of frustration that I didn't actually get to torpedo anything. So yeah, that's the sort of thing you can do in the gearing. Now you can do the same thing, let's say, in a Grozovoi. But a Grozovoi with a 4.5% fire chance against destroyers with HE is actually a lot scarier than a gearing with 3. And the 130s on the Grozovoi are better guns than the gearing. We're not even starting about German destroyers. So the utility of the gear, I mean, you can do 78,000 points of damage. Well done, the other gearing. We have definitely helped our team here, so we haven't been useless. It's just that we could have done the same thing in the same situation with another destroyer differently. Let's do a second game. Now here we are in cage, center control. It's a very interesting setup because I have never seen this many cruisers on the Asian server in tier 10 games. I don't know what's wrong with everybody at the moment. But once again, it's a carrier game. There's a Haku on the enemy team, an Izumo, Smolensk, Moskva, Yoshino, Shima, and Halland. So we have Shima, Halland, and myself, plus Maino and Worcester. So this is a reasonably terrifying thing for destroyers to do. Fortunately, I think we don't. The Halland obviously has radar, and I think the Moskva. Did the Moskva get radar as well? I'm not sure. But yeah, you do have to start counting the radars on the enemy team. Plus, there's the carrier in play as well. So, cage, obviously, we're going to get ourselves into the capture circle and try to do something about the center island position, because that's where we really want to be as a destroyer. So this is going to be gun work once again, because no enemy destroyer in tier 10 is going to run into your 62 knot torpedoes. And we can use our smoke. If the carrier is coming our way, we can use, we've got a Holland here with us, we can use the smoke early on before we detect it to prevent the carrier from even locking onto us, provided that we're actually inside the capture circle. But so far, he's holding back at checking where the enemy fighters are, and now coming definitely our way. So I want to be inside the capture circle, and I'm actually spotted, and there's Tsushima. Okay, so we're going to, and it's a reasonably good player. So we're smoking up here, such that we're not getting under dive bomber attack if the carrier hasn't locked onto us yet. We have the Holland with us, so we've got a very decent amount of AA going on. And the Shimakaze is spotted by the friendly fighters, which are getting shot down in the process, but it still means that the Shimakaze gets spotted. And Shima is reasonably in a reasonably poor situation, such that while he's spotted, he hasn't used his smoke and has taken quite a bit of damage. But they are holding the capture circle. A lot of torpedoes coming our way, but I think they have mostly been dodged. As usual, our team is not having a great interest into actually getting inside the capture circle. I seem to be the only one here, so I'm trying to motivate everybody, and then I'm going to try and make a run for the central island, which with a carrier obviously is a bit tricky, and with radars out there. But yeah, by the looks of it, the enemy team doesn't want to be in a capture circle either. So, and our Mino has taken out the enemy Holland, and that takes care of 2 radars, which is very, very much appreciated. So I'm spotted, I'm smoking up, and I'm in a perfect position to just dunk some torpedoes into that whole bunch of stuff over there. And then I'm going to use my guns and try to do something about them. So we're once again, yeah, I see you there, Shima. This is presumably the Shima. Armor piercing out, bow into the Shima. Carrier takes the Shima under fire. I'm not sure what he's up to here. I mean, this is a really, this is almost a suicidal move. I don't want to give broadside because he might have torpedoes away, but he is running into all kinds of torpedoes. And these are my torpedoes hitting the cruisers and battleships in the corner where I was shooting earlier. And yeah, the Shimakaze is now on so low health. Now he's smoking up, which is a lot later than he should have. There are some torpedoes still coming in. Friendly Shimakaze doesn't look too good either. Okay, we've lost the Shima. Enemy teams lost the Holland, and our Holland takes out the enemy Shima. So that's their destroyer's gone, and we still have 2 DDs, which makes that quite a little bit easier. Now I do have to be careful. My smoke's almost off cooldown, and the Yoshino is probably cursing that Izumo into all 9 levels of hell there. He's pushing him right into the course of my torpedoes. So smoke up once again, but the carrier has seen me. I was a little bit late there, and it has dropped dive bombers onto me. But these torpedo drops are good. Yeah, he's probably observed the AA fire. Unfortunately, you can't disable your AA when you're in smoke. But we have gotten the Yoshino relatively low, and the friendly carrier takes out the Yoshino, which leaves the Izumo. And once I'm actually back in my smoke, and these planes, the planes can't see me anymore, then I can still do a little bit. But we've done good so far. And there comes the drop. So let's get engine boost up just so we can get out of there. And we might take 1. Yeah, we took 1, I think. Holland, you don't wanna? Yeah, I'll push you out of the way. You don't want to get into airdrop torpedoes. And that's the Smolensk over there. So I'm probably dead. I'm out of smokes. I am out of everything. But we've won this game. The enemy team has no points whatsoever. I can still get another fire on the Izumo. Yeah, I'm gonna be burned down by the Smolensk right now. I'm just gonna drop some torpedoes in the general direction of the Smolensk, just in case he comes around. I still get the kill on the Izumo with my fire. There comes the second drop, and I'm dead. But that's okay, because we've held the capture circle, and the carrier would have killed me if the Smolensk hadn't. So, if you get yourself into a situation where the friendly team takes out the radars, especially things like Hollands. So this is for you cruiser players out there. If you see that you have something like a gearing that really, really relies on their smoke on the friendly team, and you know that there are radar cruisers or radar destroyers, especially out on the enemy team, do something about them. If you can kill the radar on the enemy team, you're given your friendly destroyers, smoke destroyers, just such a boost in terms of what they can do, and the amount of damage that they can cause, and the aggressive positioning that they can take if they're not within radar range of stuff. So battleships kill boosters. Cruisers kill things like Hallans or Pan-Asian destroyers. All these things that have radar and can annoy the heck out of your friendly smoke destroyers. Would I play the gearing? It's not a terrible ship. The long lasting smoke is quite nice, and I would say in general I play the ship more as a support ship. In terms of get where you need it, secure capture circles. And you don't get into illusions that you get great torpedo drops on enemy destroyers unless you're going into point blank fights. But you can still do area denial, and you can probably outspot a lot of things. So get yourself into capture circles. You've got decent AA, and together with the smoke, that can actually be useful if you smoke early on just to avoid the carrier drops. And all these kind of things you can still do in the gearing, and it's not a bad ship, but I would say it's not as overpowering as a gunboat as it probably might have been against other destroyers earlier in the game. With all the new introductions, there are some that are outshining the gearing in pretty much all her aspects. But in summary, it's still an okay combination of capabilities. Anyway, while we're just waiting for the friendly team to kill the Haku. Yeah, there she goes. Let's see where we ended up in the team. Now that we've concluded that, Mino takes the cake, and we came third in the team, which is not bad, right? We've done good. We've done a lot of cap control and stuff like that. But yeah, that's sort of where something you would expect the gearing to be. It's not an MVP machine, but it can be useful to the team. It's probably a good summary of it. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.